Okay, so I guess the only thing left for me to do here on this one subject is just to do it. And this is very strange. Wow. I need to get into the subject of ET abduction, and I need to face this myself. I've spent a lifetime avoiding it. And there's so many layers to it. It's a very complicated thing, and I think what I'm going to do, this is for reference, just start talking. I know that my guides and my angels are with me, and I am protected at all times. Through my journey of self-realization here the last few years intensely, I've walked through my entire life, 57 and a half years, and relived everything. And in that process, I've avoided the abduction scenario, because what I did is my psyche doesn't want to remember it, and I dismissed it for so many years. I have glimpses, I have bits and pieces. I know the fallout from it, that I've walked through the illness, and the dots have connected over the years. So now I want to try to put this all together so that I can make some sense out of it and share it and see if anyone else has had similar occurrences or can relate to this in any way. It'll help someone, so be it. First off, I think what I need to do is clear myself of the fear, back to the process that I've been brought through with the divine, and I have literally replayed my whole life and relived my whole life emotionally on this spiritual journey. And I've processed it all through since I decided to start living a heart-based, authentic life. And it's just been one layer after another, after another, after another, a series of cause and effect, of things, remembrances, of replaying it. I'm an empath, so I get things emotionally. I don't get the visual, like I've never been able to see. I periodically, though, anymore, do get glimpses, almost like a film reel in my head that'll come through. But as a rule, it's more that I feel the emotions and I have the knowing, and that's how I've been all my life. And when you start living your authentic self and heart-based living, you learn to trust in that, in your own knowing, and you learn to let that be your guide, because that is God. That is you. That is your I am presence, your essence of self. That is the very core of your consciousness, so to speak. I guess that's one way of putting it. Anyways, in the process of this, I can see over the last couple of years that I have, while I say I have walked through everything, I've walked through everything but this subject. This subject I have avoided. And it's funny how, we create things to make things so that, well, let's put it this way. If you don't handle it, it's just going to keep reappearing until you do handle it. Once you start your journey within, and once you learn to go within and live from within, from your point of source, from your point of heart, from love, from your God self. And so in the process of that, when you have an issue or a situation that fear flags keep coming up on, and so you find yourself avoiding them. Well, it took a long time for this stuff to even come into my consciousness, let's put it that way, to where I could even handle and acknowledge from a conscious level. And that's where I'm at now. And this has taken 3 years of journeying hard to be able to get to where I can look at it in a certain perspective and just sit here and even talk to myself about it. Wow, how trippy is that? Talk about fear. And here, you know, I've broken myself out of prison. I've broken out of the matrix. I have transcended various levels of consciousness and journeyed on many different levels, and yet I keep coming back. And that's because I have not addressed this issue. So, well, I'm just, for example, Greys, the ETs, always had a fear of, you know, from the way back in the 60s, you know, I remember seeing pictures of aliens. You know, you see the cartoon pictures with the big oval head and the big eyes and everything. You know, I could never even look at one of those pictures, not even a photograph, just a cartoon, you know, drawing. If I looked at something like that, I felt it in my gut. I felt the fear. Now, about 1.5 years ago, I lost that gut fear feeling. I don't have those triggers anymore. So, obviously, this is coming through stronger and stronger because as I sit here today, I don't have the triggers associated with it, and I really don't have any fear. You know, I've lived many, many years with a gut feeling of fear that would come up, and I don't get that anymore. Now, I know when something's not right, but I don't have to go into the fear-based emotional trigger, or what is it I'm looking to say, the reaction to it, the cause and effect type thing. Now I'm able to just look at things and walk through them, so I guess that's what this is about. I had to be taken completely out of my comfort zone to journey to beyond any familiarity, you know, leaving Hawaii, leaving everything. I'm sitting here in the middle of winter in Idaho and not very happy in all honesty, but you know, I guess that's what it took for me to finally get down to it and walk through this particular fire. So, okay, so you know, for forever and ever and ever, I couldn't even look at the pictures. You know, I used to have a fascination of the movies, and there was a series I remember watching with my son called Taken. And I watched this probably, I don't know, gosh, when I was back in Michigan, probably 10 years ago. He had it on a CD, and it was a long thing. It took us several nights to watch it, but I knew it to be true, absolutely true, that this follows families, and that I do believe that, and some research has been done, and a lot of things, what I'm going to talk about, there is documentation on this stuff. I just need to dig it up. For now, I'm just going to talk about it. There's a lot of mental illnesses associated with this, and it is genetic, and it's not a coincidence that these things for example, let's say bipolar, running through a family line is pretty typical. And that is a lot of the fallout from the psyche that is not able to reconcile abduction. Okay, and abduction occurs on a level of consciousness. Your physical body does not go, but your consciousness does. And this is confusing, and I'm really not sure how to explain it at this point. So I'm not even going to go there today, but I will in due time. So anyways, I know that I have, as a kid, I used to sit up at night and we had a bedroom that was upstairs. My poor sister and I could not sleep unless the light was on. And I used to just get up in the middle of the night and sit and stare out the window and look at the sky, and I would be like totally frozen in fear mode. I always felt like something was coming to get me all my life, and total sense of powerlessness and fear and things, anxiety wrapped up in it. And so I guess I am a pretty strong person, because it's amazing that I didn't just, fall into that and stay there forever and ever. But that's what we do, is then our minds dismiss it, and we get on with life, and we jump into the matrix and, pretend things don't happen. And we do not acknowledge them on a conscious level. And that's what I did my whole life. I know that I was being abducted my whole life. And the funny thing about it is this a bad thing? I don't know. I know that up until recently, I always felt that it was. But knowing and having learned what I have learned, spiritually, interdimensionally, and on so many levels now, and having the knowing that I know, and the knowledge that I have, and the power that I have of the light, of my God self, of the divine, and the gifts that I've been given, I know that all of it comes from the same place. There is but one source. So it's kind of confusing, because why does all this nastiness and negativity come through? And then the light, well, I guess you cannot see the light without the dark, right? And I also believe that, soul contracts are made before we come into this reality, in this existence. And so obviously this was something that I was supposed to go through. Oh boy. Anyways, on some level, for some reason, to share, I don't know. But if nothing else, I'm going to share it right here with myself today and start on it. So, regardless of the reasons, the fact of the matter is, and I know, I know the signs of it. I've seen spaceships, I've seen UFOs all my life. As a kid, I've seen them. As an adult, I've seen them. I've had experiences that other people have witnessed and been with me. For example, I'd be driving down the road, and this is in my adult lifetime. And these are just a couple little things off the top of my head that I can recall easily. I'm trusting that more will come as I get into this, and that's how it seems to go, that things will be revealed as you're able to handle. So, like, for example, I had a friend with me, and we're driving down the road, and it's a dirt road. We're coming back from the barn from riding the horses. We kept a couple miles from the house at a facility, and used to have a couple quarter horses. And this was like, oh God, this would be in the 80s, in the early 1980s, I guess. But here's one that I recall is, we're driving along and it must have been starting to get dark because you could really see the contrast. I remember coming up the dirt road and we took the back roads home and stayed off the main highway. We're outside the city, so there was enough contrast in the day that it was obvious. Driving along, there's the cornfields on the right, and we're going down this gravel road, and this is in Michigan. And all of a sudden, it's like I was in the middle of an x-ray machine, and all the cornfields and everything, and the car that I'm driving, and everything was like zoop, like when you get an x-ray taken, how the light goes on and it comes off. And it had almost a reddish hue to it. It's like the whole area, like a flashbulb almost going off. Okay, I've had that kind of thing happen over and over and over again when, not at nighttime, but during the day and in outdoors. We've even had it happen indoors. Last time I had it happen was before I moved over to Big Island there at a dark period in my life in Waikiki. And it was happening quite regularly. It was like the living room when I was pretty sick then, and I chalked it up to the meds I was on and stuff. But looking back at it now, it's no, it fits. It wasn't the medication, and it wasn't anything else. Um, I'd be sitting in a room and all of a sudden it's like a flashbulb going on. That's what it was like. And a lot of times it would be either an off-white, kind of a dullish reddish shade, or just a white light, just poof, like flashbulbs. And it was that quick. And I've never heard anything associated with it or felt it, but it was a visual thing. And this has happened dozens of times. I'd be driving my car along on Oahu at night, and as I'm driving, I remember one night in particular going across the Pali. We'd moved over to Kailua, and I was down in Honolulu, so I'm coming across the Pali Highway on Oahu there at night, and it's a big curved uh, two-lane. It was a two-lane highway back then, and you like go around a big curve. One part's kind of like a bridge sequence to it, and the street lights are there. It's a well-lit area, that one part of it, because it's all, you know, drop off. Beautiful drive during the day, by the way. Anyways, and the street lights, boom, 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 as I'm driving along, go out. As I go by the pole, boom, 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 they flick in and out as I'm driving by it. And that has happened to me so many, many times over the years when I'm driving a car. And I've seen things in the little bit of research that I've done posted that say that those are tracking devices that are implanted in you. That and that's a typical scenario for abduction or implants from abductions, for example. I do believe that I was abducted my entire life. I believe it started when I was born. I was born on an Air Force base in the 1950s, which fits the scenario of so many conspiracy theories, which really are not conspiracy theories. They are reality, and people are finally getting to realize these things. I mean, I know I have. Anyways, so I do believe that I was implanted and followed at birth, and I do believe that I was abducted my entire life, periodically. Do I have, can I sit here and say, oh yes, they took me to the spaceship and I remember seeing them. They said, here, sit here in this chair. No, 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 no. All I had was, as a kid, as a child, was irrational fears. Okay, fear of certain things, fear of darkness, fear of the sky. I would see the UFOs. I would see things. In fact, I even had one that came and sat right above my house and showed the lights in the trees in Davison, Michigan one night. And I remember my dog, Paco, the hair on the dog's fur stood up. This was a Brittany, and a very sensitive dog. And this dog all of a sudden started shaking, and poor Paco, his hair just like stood on end like it was electrified, right? And I went and opened the door and I looked out, and we had a big tree right there. It was right there. And all around the tree was like whirling from the top, like moving around the leaves and everything. And I could see the lights coming through the tree, and honestly, it scared the crap out of me so bad, I just slammed the door and ran back in the house. And I kept going back and peeking out, and every time I did, oh man, I had such a rush of fear that I couldn't even step out. I knew if I did that something bad was going to happen. And that was also during a time that I saw a lot of UFO craft that when I'd be driving at night, because that was in the country, I would see them hovering in the distance. And so there was always a presence around me. Was it good? Was it bad? I don't know. All I know is that I had an extreme emotional fear reaction to it every time. I don't think it was good. I think there are good aliens and I think there are bad aliens. I think that our government has been working with ETs for many, many years. Probably started in the 30s or the 40s, but I believe in the 50s it really, the covert, I believe that we established a covert or an underground government that operates unknown. I believe that half the United States is underground. I believe there are tunnels underground that are connecting major cities and hubs, and there's just too many things that I've learned over the years, and too many dots that I've connected that add up. Like, for example, it's always fascinated me because, but this is the experience, okay, you can see, and I've had this happen, okay. I mean, in the middle of the afternoon, boom, saw a lot of craft over on Oahu, and other people would be with me, and sometimes people would see it and sometimes they wouldn't. So obviously, when I say consciousness, I mean vibration. It's all a vibration, and it depends on the vibration of the person as to what they see, because our perceptions are so entwined with our vibration, our point of perception. So, you can stand there in the middle of the afternoon, and I've had this happen, and boom, there's a UFO right there in the sky over there, okay? One person standing next to me see it and go, oh yeah, and then they'll act like it's nothing, and other people around won't even see it. Okay, so this is why I say it depends on vibration of the individual and point of perception. And people that I've been with quite often, and I would always have such a fear emotional trigger with it that I wouldn't want to talk about it. And I think that's part of it. That's part of the programming and the implantation and part of the whole process of what happens when you're followed all your life like this is that you are somehow programmed to just, it's like you just don't even go there. It's a hypnosis sort of thing, I guess would probably be the easiest way to describe it. So you really don't, while you will acknowledge that it's there and it's happening, it's not in your reality, so you don't want to deal with it. So you don't deal with it. So you just dismiss it and you forget about it and on you go. And that's what hypnosis is all about. And I do believe it is mass hypnosis, kind of scenario associated with it. And that's part of it. So that you are part of the whole abduction thing and being followed through a lifetime. And families, I know I have cousins that have been abducted all their lives and they don't like to talk about it. I just have gotten comments and things from people in my family that I know that they're experiencing things, but if you try to even just discuss it the least little bit with them, they just shut down and, like change the subject and act like you never even had the conversation. So, there you go. It just doesn't happen because people just are not able to assimilate it. And so they're not able to bring it into their reality in the matrix, in the design, in the existence that we're living. But anyways, so of course, no wonder you don't deal with it. And no wonder it's such a big issue, alien contact. And so much behind it because it's on so many levels. So when you are in that, until you get to the point to where you are able to start living from within and heart and your God self, and you attain a certain amount of enlightenment or self-realization or whatever you want to call it, you really cannot you cannot define it because you're not going to be able to go there. I believe I have transcended the implants. I do believe that I was still having abduction scenarios happen up until about 2011. 2000, oh gosh, this is what, the 8th of January or something like that, somewhere around there, 2015. So up until the last couple years, until I met one particular teacher and was told that I was under Archangel Michael's protection and no thing can penetrate that. I do believe that that is when I received a healing and a clearing, and that was also when the fear started to peel away from me, the fear reactions that I had. That's when I started to live my heart-based living and step out of the prison matrix of this reality and realize to live my inner knowing and to realize that, you can't touch this because guess what? I'm just not there anymore. So what happens is I think that as you step into yourself and you go within, your vibration raises, and as a human being you vibrate at a total different level, bit by bit by bit, as you grow through and go through your journey. And so experiences, let's say that, I don't know, this is a fact, or whether I had a soul contract and I agreed to it or not. But let's say that the abductions were against my free will, and I finally got to a point vibrationally to where they could not step through that veil, let's say veil of vibration, just for lack of language. Words, when you start getting into this stuff, are so limited by vocabulary and descriptions. It's hard to find the words sometimes. So I will say the veil. So up until probably 2011, 2012, I do believe I was still abducted, because I did have things happen that indicate that to me. One time I woke up and I was on my couch and I'm laying there. And this was in a little place I rented when I moved over to Big Island, and I just started working. I just started Sage's classes, and I had some problems, and it was confirmed to me that I did have, Sage did confirm to me that I did have a visit from some grays. And I totally just kind of went off my Lulu there for a while, But I remember one night waking up, I woke up in the middle of the night, and I'm laying there, and it's like I was totally paralyzed, right? And my eyes just shot open, and it was so weird, because I was like sleeping and then totally wide awake, which never happens, because I'm one of these people that has to have like 3 cups of coffee before they can even hold both eyes open. Anyone that in my family knows me. I'm a slow person when it comes to getting into the world after sleeping, and that's because when we sleep, we leave this realm, we leave this consciousness, and we are journeying back into ourselves and going different places and doing different things. And I guess I never really liked to come back to this reality, because I think that's why I was always so slow about moving back into the day. And again, back to the hypnosis thing, it's almost like, coming in out of the fog, trying to wake up in the morning was so hard for me. But I also believe it's because I had problems sleeping for so many years because of abduction and what was being played out in my sleep state. Very, for all effective purposes, was a part of it. So anyways, this one night, and this was one of the last ones there, and this was one of the most vivid I ever had. I was like so wide awake and wired, like as if I was like just shot full of adrenaline. Wide awake, the kind of wide awake when you're excited about something and you're just happy, wide awake kind of thing. But this was not a happy or a sad emotion. I was just really stone wide awake, which never happens. It never used to happen with me like that, because I'd always be half asleep for an hour after I would open both my eyes. Anyways, and I woke up, and right here, and I'm laying flat like that, and right here it was like a target, or like a radar. I've been on military ships and subs and things, and or like a gun sight where you have the neon circle and then the lines running through it, and almost like a bullseye kind of thing, but a radar. Anyways, so, and I woke up, because I remember seeing that I'd opened my eyes, and there it was, like right here in my face was this radar screen. Only there was not a, it was not like looking at something as I'm like looking at the lamp over there. I mean, it was right here. And as soon as I opened my eyes, I saw that. And all I thought was, close your eyes, Kim, hurry up, close your eyes, Kim, hurry up, close your eyes. And I closed my eyes. And the next thing I knew, I woke up normally, like I usually do. But I had the visual of this. So I was somewhere and woke up when I wasn't supposed to. And I remember when I rented this place, and the whole time I was there, I had the most horrible uneasiness because there was this open field next to it, and it was out on the Big Island, and it was kind of like in a semi-rural area, but there were other houses around, but it was very, no street lights, I was a city girl. To me, it was really a dark area, and it was a jungle area, and I remember wanting the place because it suited me, but then I looked, and the first time I ever walked through it, right next to the cabin there, the little place that I rented, was a huge open field. And I thought to myself, well, that's perfect for the spaceship to park, and they can just wander over and say, hey, Kim, how you doing? But why would I even have thoughts like that? And then as time went on, boy, I had a lot of fear when I was in that place, and I was being abducted regularly when I was in that place. And that was before I'd met this one teacher or master, and had the clearing and the healing begin, and the beginning of my true journey within, where this kind of stuff quit happening. Okay. Also would have other experiences during this time frame of very, all my life I never remembered dreams, and I would have very vivid dreams. That started. That was weird. And I had horrible, horrible, horrible fear. Oh my God. I walked through fear. Which unimaginable fear. Oh gosh, that was a horrible time. And that was when the guy banged on my door in the middle of the night, and in a local kind voice, started yelling, hey, hey, hey. And I mean, there's nobody around, I don't have a neighbor. There's a house way in the back. They weren't even home. The nearest house was ways down the road, and I'm in total isolation. And someone's banging on my door and yelling, my name is Jesus, where's the beach? And I'm like, looking back at it now, maybe I should have opened the door. Maybe it really was Jesus. It could have been. But it freaked me out so bad. I would not even, and you had to walk up a couple steps to get to the door. So he was obviously on it was a small porch or lanai area there, right? And I had been leaving the porch light on out there because I was having so much anxiety that I'd taken to leaving the light on at night outdoors. So I know the light was on, and the window was right there. The door's here, and then the kitchen window's right there, and I could have just pulled open the curtain and looked and seen who it was. But I would not look. It scared me so bad. And I just kept yelling at the guy to go away, and he just kept saying to me over and over and over again, My name is Jesus, where's the beach? And, the beach was just down the road, and if you went left about a mile, you'd be standing on the beach, right? And the ocean was right there. And he wouldn't leave, and I wouldn't look out and even look. And I don't know what that was about, but anyways, I was frozen in fear. And finally I just yelled, "Go down the road, turn left. The beach is down a little ways. You'll run into it." And he said, "Okay, thank you." And then he left. And about 10 minutes later, I peeked out the window and nobody was there. So there you go. Anyways, yeah, so yeah, here I am. Wow. But these are just a couple things that come to mind. I also had, when I say that I had dreams, I mean, I would have physical manifestations when I woke up, so that the dream I was reacting, I would have physical sweats or different physical reactions that I never have, and I never in my life ever remembered dreams. And I started remembering feelings. And I do believe that I was consciously manipulated at that time. That's what happens when you are abducted like that. It is a consciousness. Your consciousness is detached and you are taken. So your body's left there, but it's like what you do when we're sleeping. It's like the other reality. Okay, we're somewhere else. There's a whole nother world that we just don't recall. Which one's real? Who knows? But I would wake up and I would have certain stiffness in or muscle stiffness, extreme joint stiffness. I had one experience, and this would be right before I moved to Big Island in 2010, 2011. It was in the middle of the afternoon in Waikiki, and I remember I was in the apartment. And, mind you, I was still pretty sick on a lot of medications, so I was so full of so much crap in my system that, I didn't feel things physically like I should have, or process mentally like I should have, because of the various medications that I was on. So I never paid much attention to things because of that. And that's part of the hypnosis. That's part of the matrix. It's part of the whole prison mentality that, we live in before we start journeying and going within and realizing and coming into our true selves. So until we step into ourselves and take responsibility for our lives and move forward. So anyways, it was like, and this was in the middle of the afternoon, and I'm laying on a couch watching TV, and all of a sudden I couldn't move. I'm on the couch and I'm stretched out because I was in pretty bad physical shape still, mental and physical. And anyways, and it wasn't uncomfortable. It wasn't uncomfortable, but I couldn't move. And I remember laying there thinking, "Kim, don't move, don't move, don't move, don't move. You'll mess it up. Don't move, don't move, don't move." And all of a sudden, I know this sounds so weird, it just happened. And I remember, because I wrote it down, this is when I started waking up. This is about the time of the Mind Body Expo that I went to, when I made my decision to, when my heart opened and I started waking up, I think when my consciousness started coming through. Anyways, this was in that basic, probably within a couple months of that, which would be like May. Anyways, whatever, it doesn't matter. I'm laying there, and all of a sudden, now I know I've had implants in my, I had one in this finger because I would feel it vibrate, I would feel, and I would have certain issues in different places in my body, okay? So, but it was like there was an implant being put in me, or being taken out, or something was going on. I don't know, but I just remember laying there, and a total calmness came over me. And this is what was weird, because there was no panic, so maybe it was being removed. But I'm laying there, and I just knew that I didn't want to move, or I'd mess everything up. And I couldn't move, but it was okay that I couldn't move. So it's not like feeling paralyzed and having fear, I just didn't move. Okay. So I'm laying there, and I'm just perfectly still. And the whole time, it's like, this was painful. And this is why I tend to think it was not of the divine, because pain is not involved with your God self like that. Or things that are of the light are not painful. So it was, all I can say, it was like as if someone was either sticking it in or pulling it out. I don't know. It was like having a red hot poker or a wire or something inserted in the tip of my big toe on my right foot as I laid there, toes up, right? And so like this, so the bottom of my foot, is up. There's my big toe, right? And it was like just something coming in it or going out of it. And it lasted about 10 minutes. And it hurt like hell. Now, I didn't hurt anywhere else. My muscles were not stiff. It just hurt. But I just laid there without any conscious thought associated with it and endured this pain. And then when it was done, I was like, oh, okay. And also that day, I also had the x-ray come through in the room. And I remember, because I was finally starting to put the pieces together, because I remember sitting there and saying, because when that happened, because I always thought it was my imagination, because I made a point of saying right out loud, okay, it's not my imagination. I saw this happen. I know this is going on. Something's going on. And that was also the same time frame, and I do have this photograph where I was, a couple months before at Christmas, I was given a camera, a new digital, and I was just shooting around the room. And I actually picked up in a huge big screen TV like an x-ray picture of perfect skeletons, shoulders, head, and neck of a couple of grays that came out in the television screen. Because I went like this, click, 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 click around the room. And the one picture beforehand showed the TV screen. It was a commercial that was on it, and it came out, normally. You could see the picture, right? Then the next one was like an x-ray. It was like looking at an x-ray of your skeleton, right? And obviously a couple ETs. And then the next one was the TV picture again. And then I also had a person that I know that travels it interdimensionally quite regularly and has had that gift for many, many years. And was a person of the light tell me that there are tons of ETs down in Waikiki, and this person got to where they didn't even want to come down to Waikiki anymore because of all the aliens, all the greys, and these were bad guys. These were not good guys. They were just all over the place, and she would see them, and she just couldn't stand their energy. It was just horrible. So I think, I had them right there with me the whole time. And the person that I was living with at the time actually morphed in front of my eyes. And it's also when I started seeing reptilians and things. But at the time, I chalked it all up to hallucinations from mental illness. Well, guess what? It wasn't. That shit's real. And as I have received my health and healings, and it's funny because we kid around about journeying and what you're doing when you learn to live your authentic self, and you go within and find your true power. You're losing your mind. You are letting go of your ego. You are letting your mind self go. You are transcending the mind, and you are living from your heart. Okay, so you do lose your mind. There. That just always cracks me up. Anyway, so yes, I have lost my mind. But in a good way. And then you get to where you really don't care what somebody else thinks anyways, because it's irrelevant. So, and I remember back in the 70s working at the Flint Police Department, and I'd be downtown, and I did parking enforcement down there for several months, and I love the street people, and like wherever I've lived, I've always known the homeless people in the neighborhoods, and always enjoyed their company, and gotten to know people on those levels, because really, they're living interdimensionally, so many of them, and it makes you wonder. Schizophrenia and a lot of your mental illnesses and things, I believe, are bleed throughs of the layers of existence and reality that truly do exist, because everything does exist simultaneously, and it's just a matter of our point of perception in this reality and where we're focusing that as to what we see. Okay, and that is the matrix. It's what we choose to see. So I remember all these street people anyways back in the 70s, and I used to just laugh, because they'd have, the tin foil on their heads and be buzzing around, all the aliens, and, they'd talk to you and tell you about this encounter and this alien and that, and, all these years later, I know that shit was all true. So who's the crazy one? Who's to say? Who's crazy and who's sane? Who's to say what the definition of crazy is and what the definition of sane is? I mean, that changes. Look at the our psychiatric community. It wasn't that long ago that a declaration of homosexuality, if you said you were gay, or a lesbian, if you were a woman and you liked women, or a man and you liked men and you were attracted. I mean, you were mentally ill, and you were encouraged to move into institutionalization, either on a physical level to go in for one-on-one treatment and commit yourself, or go on chemicals to adjust your brain so it doesn't think that way, or find some religious cult to reprogram you, or find some shrink to reprogram you. So, at least that stuff has finally changed, So who's to say what is really true? And what's real and what's not real. Because, things that weren't accepted, 5, 10 years ago are considered norm now. What's normal? It changes. It's a cultural perception. It's all a matter of perception. Everything is. But back to the alien thing. So as we go through life, as I went through life, I just buried it, and I think that's why for a lot of years I drank a lot. I mean, I had a lot of fun. I was a happy drunk, anyways, for the most part, I think. And but I just, I drank a lot, and ADHD, and eventually was diagnosed because of experiences that I had as bipolar. Even though I only had one manic experience, I was pigeonholed and put into that and put on all these medications because once it happens, that's it. You're signed, sealed, and delivered for the rest of your life, which is bullshit. But, 10 years ago, I accepted that. Okay, and I accepted that system of healing, and I accepted that whole thing. I know now that what that was is that was the fallout from my psyche beginning to crack because I was not handling or processing the experiences of ET abduction into this matrix, into this reality. So I think it's kind of like, for lack of better words, a bleed through thing. From experiences, whether it's in sleep or waking moments, what happens is I think that it starts coming through into your waking consciousness here. And that's when people have bipolar incidences and things happen, and behaviors and mental illness and all kinds of OCD and all kinds of crap. If it, and that's, now don't get me wrong, mental illness is very valid, and there's no doubt a lot of mental illness that has helped with treatment. And I'm not talking about that. I'm just talking about the concept of it, okay? That I do believe a lot of it out there has a direct correlation to families or individual, genetically, because it is genetically enhanced, because I do believe that families have been followed generation after generation after generation since probably the 40s and the 50s. And therein lies the loop of the, well, so and so in the family had that mental illness, and so has it, and so has it, and so, over and over again. Generationally, it keeps popping up, but that's also in direct line with alien abduction. So that's all I can do for now.